Yes,
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's a real pleasure for me to open the edition of the 11th business seminar of Instituto here in Sestri, Levante. As most of you know already, business seminars are a 2 days workshop that gives the opportunity to young researchers and students to present their original papers and studies and to discuss them with prominent scholars. As you can see from the schedule from the program, it is very rich. We have 2 sessions and 2 lectures with very noticeable commentators. We have Juan with us for the lecture tonight, and tomorrow Alvaro Vargas Llosa was in lecture. But right now, for the discussion, for the presentation of the papers, we have as discussant Miguel Bastos, profesor de ciencia política y de la administración del Instituto Juan de Mariana, y Nicola Rossi, that unfortunately he's got the flu, so Mrs. Tieva will, she won't have Nicola Rossi as discussant, but we will directly move on and open the discussion with the public after the presentation of her paper. My task now is just to give the welcome to you, from old friends to new ones, and among the old friends there is surely Jean-Pierre Santi from the Faculté of Economy at the Université de Marseille, Juan. I just pass leave to give the floor for the first session of the 11th business seminar, wishing to us to have explained it to things. Thank you, Professor Santi, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to say my great pleasure to participate to this event business seminar. I address all my thanks and congratulations to Alberto Miguel and the whole IBM team, because they are doing really a very nice job and they take so active part in spreading, defending the philosophy of liberty, not only in Italy, but throughout the world. And I'm really honored to chair this session, and the first speaker is Mrs. Laura Coco, who is a PhD student at King's College London. And maybe I guess that all of you have the paper, which is entitled Territorial Rights and Secession. This is a very exciting paper. Mr. Juan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here. I followed the Instituto for a long time, and this is a really great opportunity for me to see what you guys have to think about it, about what you have to say about my research. I will try to
Microphone. Yeah.
Better if we hear it. Yes. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I will try to keep my presentation around 20 minutes because I know that Professor Bastos has a lot of things to say. So my presentation is about territorial rights and secession. What I'm going to do now, I will offer you a different conceptualization of the idea of territorial jurisdiction. I'll offer you, I'll quickly show that the literature fails to provide a good account of the right to secede. And then I will outline my approach that I call a hybrid approach between the two perspectives that emerge from the literature. The mother state is principally understood as a territorial entity, and often the arguments in favor of statehood have been taken to also support and justify territorial control. And here there's a famous quote from Sestri that I will let you read for yourself. However, many arguments have been made, and especially I quote in my paper Chris Armstrong against the necessary relation between national sovereignty and the full control over territory. I'm not going to go into the details of those arguments, but the arguments in general say that at best we can justify control of the territory that is necessary to either support a fully functional state or to support a sense of collective identity, etc. Moreover, sovereignty, and this is not news for theories of international law and political theories, in general, sovereignty is divided, powers of territory and over people may occur disjunctively. We have examples in international relations. Kosovo is a good example. For example, the experience of Kosovo shows that a political unity may have extensive control over their territories, but not also, for example, in the case of Kosovo, powers regarding the police, customs, border control, the judiciary, which are under the jurisdiction of the European Union. So the justification, to conclude this slide, is the justification of full sovereignty must be the achievement of a series of systematic steps towards the justification of its constituents that could include territorial control, but also internal and external self-determination, the powers to make treaties, to reform, and to legislate over people. So this is my new proposal, in a way, a new outlook on what it means for a political unity to secede. I suggest that when a group secedes from a state, what becomes relevant is whether the seceding group has the most extensive titles on territory. What do I mean for titles? I distinguish, I use the Levante analysis here. I distinguish between powers and freedoms. Powers to control a particular territory, which means power to decide how a territory and its resources can be used, or to allocate rights over them, and the freedom to use the resources within it. So, privilege of doing or not doing something about or with the resources of the territory that are at issue. So when we ask whether a group can secede from a state and exert territorial jurisdiction there. We are asking if it can legitimately acquire a territory without violation, and whether this acquisition violates existing state's titles, so the powers and freedoms to use that territory. And possibly, also, we may ask whether the group, as well as the state, are violating the demands of global justice, so universal demands for the protection of those who are in need. I'm not going to speak about the global justice side of this issue, and I will focus instead on the implications of theories of territorial rights quickly for the right to secede. So I distinguish, I'm not the one who makes this distinction, but I take the distinction of the literature of territorial rights to focus on two main arguments. One type of argument is the functionalist argument, which states that a group has exclusive jurisdiction within a territory or about a territory, with regards to a territory, with resources, because such power is functional to the establishment and correct functioning of minimally just institutions. Now, I have a lot of things to say about the current, the failure of the current literature, and I will try to be very quick, so to move on to my proposal. In short, what I find controversial about this, or problematic about this argument, is that often it is not alone, at least, it is not able to tell us which institution among the many that can and do perform minimally functional, perform the ministry of the administration of justice, we should refer, or we should give priority to. So, for example, in the case of confederations, federations, even the local authorities within a national state, we may argue that some regional local authorities and states, federations, even federations may have the same ability to establish justice or minimally functional justice institutions within the territory. Now, one could say, well, the relation between the states and the main government and the main federal government are agreed upon when they are instituted, but what I'm discussing here is whether the state still retains a moral right, or moral power, and moral right to withdraw their consent from those initial agreements in favor of freedom of defense. So what I discuss here is that from the functionalist argument in the paper, functionalist arguments are in need of a principle that associates a group's presence in the territory and its power to control its territory, or the most extensive power that it could have to control the territory and its resources. The second type of argument is what is generally referred to as attachment arguments. And here we have collectivist attachment arguments, individualistic attachment arguments. They generally have the same form. Territorial jurisdiction protects some fundamental interests of the group or its individual members, such as the interest in the individual self-government, collective self-determination, or happiness. And because of that, the group or the individual has the most extensive powers and freedom with regards to the territory and its resources. The problem I find with the literature of this kind is that it often does not offer agreeable constraints of secession. For the collectivistic side, the limitation on secession, so how much or how easy it should be for a group to secede, is left to the own group's understanding of what it means, for example, to be self-determined. So how many resources or how much territory needs to be self-determined. And for what regards to individualistic accounts, they often, or at least they must maintain that individuals can secede independently from other individuals. I understand that the audience here may not be as disturbed by these implications, but I think it is problematic. It is a really unrealistic and a best topic, and I think it. And I have other problems with regards to that implication in particular. I don't think that property rights in a territory are neither necessary or sufficient to be able, for a person to be able to decide whether its group or in himself may be able to secede. So, for example, a Scottish resident who simply or merely rents a property somewhere, but lives there as a resident and participates in the Scottish norms in the Scottish community, I think, and we all, I imagine, agree that we have to be able to vote in a vote regarding the Scottish secession. So at least I think that that's a limited argument. Now, here's my proposal. I think the problem with these two arguments is that neither of them can sufficiently explain and address the issue of secession. And what we are in need instead of a hybrid approach that successfully and coherently puts them together. And this is what my argument, my proposal. In particular, I don't go into the details of my proposal. It's a preparatory paper, but I have tried to convince people that this approach is needed. Here I will devote also my presentation to it, and because I think, or at least I would like to know more about what people think about it. So my proposal is called legitimacy-based conventionalism. Throughout the presentation, I'll be using the term, practice or social norms or convention. There is a big literature about the difference between these three things. On purpose, we remain vague about it. I don't want to get into it. I don't think it's necessary. But in general, what I mean with it, the convention are practices that insist upon a specific territory. So, for example, a community of fishermen practice fishing in a certain way, and we can say that they uphold social norms about fishing with nets instead of with lines, etc. A community may uphold norms regarding the extraction of minerals, the sustainability of a tourism activity. So there can be many things, very complex practices, as well as very simple practices. But the key idea is that they insist upon a specific territory. And they help us identify which territory relates to which group, which is the group that upholds those practices. So my proposal is this. I use an attachment argument to say that practices ground powers to control a territory and freedoms. A group may legitimately exert powers regarding the territory and thus secede when it upholds a system of practices that relies on the particular territory that its members occupy. However, I think the function of this limitation of personal constraints is necessary here. Because, and I'm not going to spend too much time speaking about this, but practices can be very horrible. It can be, or at least they can be oppressive, and they can be very bad practices in society. Moreover, if every group and every practice would support exclusive powers to control a territory, we would be in the situation where the attachment theories are, with a very unclarity on what it is that limits a group's exclusive powers over territory. So I suggest that powers of territory are protected by immunity, so are exclusive to the group that upholds them, as long as, and to the extent that, the group's social norms sufficiently protect individuals' interests in being self-governing. So I have to admit I have to work more on the idea of what it is that it means for an individual, for social norms to support and to sufficiently protect individuals' interests in being self-governing. But what I can say, and in the paper I go on additional details about it, is that it is an ethically individualistic proposal, whereby what we should be concerned about is how extensive is an individual's freedom to choose their plans and to develop their plans according to the context in which they are based, according to the social norms that surround them, in which they participate. However, and my proposal is it is methodologically collectivistic, and I was speaking earlier about this. The group can succeed, and not only the individual can succeed, because because the property rights that individuals may be able to acquire a territory necessarily rely on a system of social norms that are collectivistic. So as the individual leaves the collective practices, the moral grounds for its for the definition of what it is that he or she owns in a territory also collapse. And this is how my proposal tries to avoid the definition of illegal secession. So again, to clarify, the proposal does not exclude that people may have private property rights on the territory. It does exclude, however, that those are necessary or sufficient to succeed independently. They may emerge from practices. We have practices that establish private property rights, but they are not the focus, the center concern of territorial powers of territorial jurisdiction. Differently from functionalist accounts, is able to identify precisely who is the holder of territorial rights. It is the group that holds a specific norm that impinges on a specific territory. So it is the group that fishes in that lake. It is the group that relies on tourism in Venice, etc. Now I'm going to move on to the controversial, or controversial, or the complex implication of my proposal. The proposal does not exclude that different groups may uphold different practices that exist on the same territory. So we may find that two more groups that occupy a territory may uphold different and competing practices regarding the territorial issue. So different fishing communities may at times fish in the same river. Italy and Venice both rely on the touristic, the benefit of the regional police, as well as extractive businesses in the area. As you can see from the first slide, actually second slide, my functionality limitation is not only a limitation on who can demand exclusive powers on the territory, but also the extent to which those powers are exclusive. And I'm proposing that the extent to which those territorial rights are exclusive is the extent to which territorial rights are necessary to maintain the minimum requirements of legitimacy, those that I call the sufficient protection of individual self-government. So I make a practical example. In the case of Kurdistan, which is a it's a community that holds specific territorial practices, and not only territorial fact. Imagine that in terms that the Turkey that controls the north of Turkestan decides to inviting the ISIS to offer refuge and residence permits to refugees from Syria in the north of Kurdistan, so the area controlled by Turkey. If, for example, this power of Turkey the ability of Turkey to offer this residence permits to Syrians in the area of Kurdistan erodes the ability of Kurdistan to control and to fight the resistance, to actually support the resistance against ISIS because it's badly administered, for example. Kurdistan has a right, or at least an exclusive power, to control residency in this area. However, if the activity of Turkey within those areas, within those territories, actually does not erode the ability of Kurdistan to maintain their social norms and to successfully fight ISIS, Turkey has continued to have power to afford the residency to refugees there. Now, what I'm trying to say is that practices that do not conflict nor are illegitimate may coexist and may be equally legitimate. Now, at some point, they also may become competitive and they become incompatible, specifically. But my theory says nothing about whether whether one of these two practices is better to the other, or whether these two groups have an exclusive power to control the territory. In short, in simpler terms, I'm suggesting that overlapping jurisdictions are not only possible, but in fact are desirable because they allow us to maintain successful practices in the same territory. Now, the fact that the two practices may be in conflict and so may create instability and conflict between groups poses the problem of how to solve the conflict. But the conflict cannot be solved by according exclusive rights. The conflict, as suggested in the paper, although the last 2 months have changed my mind, so I was very unsure whether to present the paper or to present my alternative solution, not just to present the paper. My suggestion is that conflicts over powers of overlapping jurisdictions that are equally legitimate, because they go past the threshold of legitimacy, have to be approached with a system of compromise. The parties ought to recognize that they have equally legitimate demands on the territory, on the same territory, and seek a mutually satisfactory agreement. So what do I mean, what do I used to mean for compromise? The idea is that the parties may have to be demanded to set up systems of adjudication. This is not new to international relations. The Indus Water Treaty, for example, is an example of this practice. Was the result of a long process of peaceful negotiation supervised by the World Bank at the outset of the secession of Pakistan from India. The Indus Water Treaty then became a commission, and it was settled as a long-standing system of adjudication regarding the use and the control of the Indus Basin. Now, the countries have been at war again, but not with regards to the control of water. The second implication, or the second point regarding compromise, is that if secession is an impediment to the survival of the existing state, and provided that it is a legitimate or authorized depending on what kind of theory of political authority or this institutional legitimacy you have. The seceding group may have to renounce secession altogether and seek alternative ways to fulfill its ambition for independence. And here I think about the case of Brussels. Brussels is an important economic center for two national groups. They have tried to settle their differences, they've tried to seek independence and create alternative political institutions. It did not work, and probably for good reason. And the federalism here or confederation here may be the solution. Then again, we also have cases of secession from states that are non-legitimate. In this case, the seceding group may not have, or does not have a duty to ensure the proper functioning of the existing state. So South Sudan did not have a duty to ensure that Sudan maintained its control over its people. However, it may have had some duties of reciprocity towards the members of the state from which it's separated. And I think this is important. A lot of people in the literature, or at least the people in the literature, disagree with it, but the reciprocity towards the members of the state, although unjust, and although the relationship between the two groups was very violent, it is important to maintain, to ensure that the separation does not constitute serious and drastic loss of well-being for the parties involved. And thus also does not end up in more violence and insecurity. Now, my conclusion here is that we should treat powers and immunities as divisible. So we should be able to say that we may have extensive powers. Turkey may have extensive powers also on the area of Kurdistan, when this area is important for Turkey to maintain security within its borders, or at least within its population. But immunities, and so exclusive powers, the ability to exclude others from the control of the same territory, should be grounded on different concerns, which are, I think, the protection of individual self-government. So if the practices protect collective organization, security, legitimacy, the exclusive powers should be thought as protecting individual interests. Moreover, I tried to show with a few examples that a hybrid approach is not only able to successfully and unequivocally identify the right holder and offer limits of succession, but it's also realistic. It's not trying to defend my ideas also by saying that in some cases this approach to international relations and law has been enacted. And this is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura, for this insights in this interdisciplinary issue of the. Now, we listen to Professor Miguel Bastos, who is from Instituto Juan de Mariana. Excuse me for my accent. You have the floor, Professor.
Me, for my deficient English, I am not so fluent down. The first one, congratulations for the paper. You have discovered to me a new literature and philosophy of self. I enjoyed very much reading the paper and reading the secondary literature about the matter. For me, this paper is better than many of the papers that she quotes in the paper. Better, well, right, very well written paper. But I can hear critics to make this. Suppose that Instituto indeed need to make hard critics to the paper. Then, first one, concepts. There are not right about natural resources. Cannot have this kind of right. There are not resources or fundamental importance for collective self-determination, like Professor Coco said. Resources are potential. They became. Resources is a future, it's not a present. You cannot establish a right about resources because resources are byproduct of human mind. They are not in there. They are not in the land. They are not in the territory. They are in your mind. For the Indians of Venezuela, oil was not a resource. Oil was a disturb. No, not a resource. Oil is a resource when human mind discovering explosion motor, discovering refine, discovering gasoline, kerosene, gas. Before this is not a resource. Then a future cannot be appropriated for no one. There are no resources. And you don't need all natural resources for your prosperity, of your self-determination. Dr. Coco changed his mind, her mind by oil, copper, aluminium, oil, every day. You don't need all the resources. You can read, you can change it by products of your work or of your mind. There are not a definition of natural resources. Then they cannot be appropriated for no one. Second, definition of fundamental interest of the group. They are all politically constructed. There are not a definition of fundamental interest of a group. There are not, for me, benefits or political association. What they are, or which they are, the benefits of political association, I don't see. You need to explain which are the benefits of political association. Some hopes and another things, but I don't believe that hopes in there. For Jews, the benefits are of political association are given. For me, not. For me, not. There are not minimal functions of the state. For me, there are no function legitimate of the state. There are no legitimation for the existence of the state. You need to prove it before. For me, what are the function of the state? Justice, defense against justice, social right. I don't know what it is. I wrote a paper years ago criticizing the idea that there are a minimal function of the state. For me, there are no legitimate or scientific justification of the existence of the state. For me, it's ideas. There are people that defend that idea. For me, no. For me, you need to justify which are the concrete function of the state, or the minimal function of the state. Your minimal, for me, is excessive, is a maximum. Then, but all the definitions of minimal functions are politically constructed, are subjectively constructed. They are not objectively the benefits. For an analyst like me, there are no benefits there. And for me, these functions can be perfectly obtained in the market, all of them. And Schumpeter wrote years ago in a paper called the fiscal state crisis, about that everyone was in one question made by private means. There are no exceptions, said they not Schumpeter years ago. The same occurs with a concept that you utilize, you use in the next, the concept of attachment. But a loan need can be attached by a past investment, by a past relation, by a past building of infrastructure, not in the future attachment. I cannot be attached in the future, but most of the riches, most of the buildings, most of the uses of the buildings and infrastructures is or will be in the future, not now. And you cannot be a right about a future right. It's like a divorce. A divorce, you can part the money, part the properties. You have not a right about my futures. Rights. Unless in the case of the state or this kind of political association. No, I cannot be attached by your future relations. In example, you in the paper you talk about North Sudan and South Sudan. Well, South Sudan has oil. Suppose that North Sudan has lithium, but we suppose that we change by order of the European Union from oil car, explosion motor, to an electric car. Then the value of the oil is lost, and the value of the lithium will rise. Then we can then reverse the succession, reclaiming future rights. It's changing. The resources are changing and are always changing, not are static. Then we can change the value. If you change the value, then reverse the union. I don't understand. About your proposal of legitimacy-based conventionalism. Systems of practice are too subjectively defined. They are in the eye of the beholder, not inside. For example, you quote or talk about the Kurds and Turks. For me, an ignorant Galician, are the same. By the Turk, my difference, I live in abroad. My difference with a Portuguese, between a Portuguese and Galician, for a Turk, we are the same. We can speak the same language, eat the same fish, and we distinguish each other. But a Turk or a Kurd don't know distinguish between us. But this is Section 8, 1,000 years ago of us. Yeah, without a special problem. Which of the social practices are relevant? How much of them are the same? Where is the line of demarcation between social practice and another social practice? You talk about fisheries. I suppose that you are thinking in Rostrum works about commons. But fisheries are in social laws only on fishery, not a comprehensive bunch of norms, are only on fishery. Not in planning or not in living or not in the same language, or are only in the fisheries. It's not the social norms in a fishery or in a common. It's not a political relation. It's a concrete relation in a concrete place of activity, no more, or no can be more. Where there is important. Another, you identify social norms with the protection of economic and social rights. For me, there are not this kind of rights, of positive rights. I support only negative rights. It's another discussion, not for now. But you associate to the protection of these rights with a state, I suppose. Not necessarily, but it's an illusion of mine. I don't do specific rights. But then, why is the state the best protector of this kind of rights? It's another question for another day. But the question is, if I, for example, I'm Dr. Anxo, I'm Dr. Lotier, we are minarchist or anarchist like me. We three both we allow or yes flying in our set for two with anarchist or minarchist society. We both that. Precisely for to have less social rights, no more social rights, not for to conserve the actual rights, not for to have less rights, to curtail or right to buy a piece of land or not. For in your scheme to curtail, I suppose curtail with guns, tanks and bombs. Okay, the state is the way that states act normally in this case. This is the real question. Can we separate for to have less rights, not for to have more rights, and we associate it freely in a that capitalist or Rodadia or Nocicean way? No. Then who owns the right to curtail the situation then? And how you can justify this aggression? Another minor questions. For me, there are not interests of the Italians in Venezia. I support the freedom of Venezia and all the balance. But they have no rights. Many Italians have no interest in Batavia. They have interest, for example, in Portugal or in Galicia. They live there, have their mates there, or another have in India or in China or in Bangladesh. Not all the Italians have the same interest. Not all the Italians have contributed to the well-being of Venetians. Many Italians are younger, or to contribute them. Many Italians are recent immigrants. They have not contributed them. What is the right of the all of Italians, of the Italian community to intervene in that? And for the same reason, the Venetian Italians can have an opinion about the independence of the Islam of Madeira, Portugal, or independence of Kashmir, because they have a stake in the market. How many Italians are necessary for to? How many and how much interest they have or need to have for to participate in the aspects of the Venetian affairs? And further, the last. Radical worsening of the conditions do not depend exclusively of secession. Depends of the decisions that the seceded people have and the remaining country have. They implement some decisions. It depends, can worsen, can become better. back in the after the decision. Then, for me, when you say that could be a radical worsening of conditions, you are saying that one people is loading another people. That one people is stealing another people. Because if they are worsening because these are looting or stealing to another, then you are calling them as kind of parasites. That the remaining people are parasiting the another. You are saying it is implicit. I don't believe that the parasite have rights. I'm a parasite of animal, a fly. Have not rights to say to the big animal what to do. I don't. Then, congratulations again.
Thank you so much, Professor.